Hello there and welcome back to the Chap's Guide. Now today my goal is to save you some money because I'm going to talk to you about how you can make your expensive fragrances go farther, last for longer. Because if you're anything like me, you will have invested a small fortune in your fragrance collection over the years. In fact, I don't even want to think about the amount of money I've invested, let alone admit it to the wife. So for me, getting as much of this back in the uses that I get out of it and the life that these things have for me is very important. So today I've got some tips that will help prolong the life of your fragrances and make you get more bang for buck out of it. Now tip number one is particularly relevant for those of you who store your fragrances on a shelf perhaps in the bathroom so you can see them every morning and they're there visible so you can choose the fragrance which goes with your mood for the day. Gentlemen, chaps, that is a surefire way to shorten the life of your fragrances because, let me tell you, the greatest enemy of any form of gentleman's fragrance, be that cologne, eau de toilette, parfum, whatever, is ultraviolet. This radiation which surrounds us all the time, keeps us warm, gives us a lovely tan, but also it has a very deteriorating effect on almost all things that it comes in contact with. I'm here in my garden today and I've got garden furniture here which has been totally leached of colour just because it's been exposed to the sun. And it does the same when it comes in contact with anything, particularly your fragrances. Now if you allow your colognes or whatever to be exposed to direct sunlight, it will significantly reduce the lifespan of that cologne whilst it's with you because the UV light will damage it, it'll break down the cells within that cologne, and at the very least, even if it doesn't look any different, it'll significantly alter the fragrance because it will have damaged the ingredients within that fragrance and it won't smell the same in no time at all. For me, I store all of my fragrances in a drawer at home near my bathroom. I keep it in the bedroom. They're kept out of the light entirely and they're also protected from heat, humidity and anything else which can have a detrimental effect on the ingredients which make up the fragrance. Because remember, these things don't last forever. They can last a number of years if they're properly looked after. And the biggest thing to properly looking after them is keeping them out of that UV light. So keep them in the dark, keep them away from heat, and that's a really good start to prolonging the life of your fragrance. Now my second tip to getting the most from your fragrances so that they last longer is understand the different potencies which are apparent in the fragrances that you buy. It's not all just one thing, it's not all aftershave. You'll see these different terms and they're French as well, which may be confusing. So you've got this eau de toilette, eau de parfum, and you don't really know what you're buying. You just buy it because you like the smell of it generally and you use it all very much the same. But that's not how you should do it, because to get the most from your fragrance, understanding what it is, make sure that you get best use of it. Now the different terms that you will use relate to the different strengths of the fragrance itself, the ingredients and the silage. Now silage is just a fragrance term for the length of time that something emits an odour. So if you had something which typically had a silage of say 2 to 3 hours, it would mean that the fragrance would be active on your skin for 2 to 3 hours. So it's important to understand that. So when you see these terms, it starts off with eau de cologne. Now typically the content of a fragrance parfum within that will be about 2 to 5%. It varies from product to product, but generally speaking, across the fragrance industry, it's going to be about 2 to 5%. So a very small amount of active ingredient really. So eau de cologne, if you're buying that, you should be aware that it's not going to last the whole day. And you may have to reapply if you want that fragrance to last for a prolonged period of time. Hence, you're using it twice as much. Think about the amount of money it costs and the amount of return you're going to get. Now moving on that potency chart, the next one up you'll find is eau de toilette. This is very common and it's on most of the fragrances. The one I'm holding here, this is Floris number 89 and this is eau de toilette. And that has a potency of between 5 to 15%. So it's getting up there, it's going to last quite a bit longer, it's going to last a number of hours and it's going to return a bit more of your value to you because you probably won't have to reapply unless you intend to go out in the evening and then you need to think if you want to put some more on. Now moving on up, you'll see eau de parfum. Now we're getting a bit stronger. It's between 15 and 20% potency of the active ingredient, and it's going to be lasting a lot longer throughout the day. And finally, you'll see those just are termed parfum or perfume. Now don't be confused into thinking this is purely for the ladies because it's perfume. Parfum is just the term which is used for quite a strong potency, at least between 20 to 30%, and the silage of that, the length of time it will remain active on your skin, will be considerable. So this is going to be a fragrance that you apply in the morning. It's going to be quite powerful when you first put it on, but it will last through the duration of the day. Now if you understand that, when you buy these fragrances and think about how you're going to use them, perhaps then you'll get more return for your investment. Because if you're somebody who will apply your fragrance and expect it to last the whole day, then you need to be looking for the more potent fragrances. If you buy an eau de cologne, for instance, which has a very low patency, low silage, you will have to reapply. So you'll be using twice as much of it. So think about that, understand what you're buying, and you'll get a better return for your investment. Now another way to get the best return from your investment with your fragrance is to think about when to apply it. Now a lot of people just spray it on randomly and it just dissipates as time goes on. But if you apply it, say like most people, in the morning before you go out for your day, if you've just had a shower, your pores are open, this is a great time to apply fragrance to your body, because with the pores being open, it'll mean that the fragrance will bond more easily, deeper with your skin, and the silage will be much longer. Now, if you really want to do a good job on it, particularly if you're shaving, the best thing to do would be to apply an unscented lotion to the skin beforehand and then apply the cologne afterwards, because that way it just helps it bond with the skin, it'll last longer, and you'll get more bang for your buck for that all hard-earned money that you've invested in that fragrance that you seek. Now another important thing to remember is where on your body that you apply the fragrance, because a lot of people just squirt it up in the air, it's all over the place, and you're not really thinking about the areas that are going to work for you when it comes to the best return for your fragrance. The best place to apply it is to the heat emitting areas of your body, because the heat will activate that fragrance and it'll just help it go that much further when it comes to giving you that wonderful fragrance. So where are the heat emitting areas? Well, I think you probably already know where they are, because people traditionally will apply fragrance there as a matter of course. So it's the pulse areas around the body. So where the vein system and the artery system are near to the surface, there's more heat. So in the neck, for instance, where your veins and arteries run up the side of your neck. On your wrists, for instance, and on your chest, which becomes hot. Because your heart is in, it pumps a lot of blood around your body, and this will mean that it's warm as well. So think about applying it to those heat emitting areas. And similarly, as I just said about applying an unscented lotion first, do that in these areas. So apply it on the wrist, then squirt the fragrance on it, and that fragrance will bond more readily to your skin in that situation. Another way to make sure you get the most out of your fragrance is get it working for you when you need it to. Now we've already talked about those potencies. So if you apply eau de cologne in the morning, for instance, it's not going to be active on your skin at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening after a hard day in the office, when you leave work to go to the opera or to meet your friend for a drink or to go on that date that you've been looking forward to for a while, exactly where you want your fragrance to be working for you. So think about how you can make that fragrance come back to life for you in the evening. Now a good way of doing it is a very simple way. It is using a cotton pad and a plastic bag, and I'll explain to you what I mean. So I've got a little plastic bag here, as you can see, and a cotton pad within. Now that's just an ordinary cosmetic cotton pad which I've stolen from my wife's makeup box, and I'm going to get the fragrance which I applied this morning. So this is that Florist again, number 89. It's an eau de toilette, not particularly strong. You know, it's not going to last until the evening if you apply it in the morning. So I'm going to squirt my cotton pad with several good squirts of my eau de toilette, and now whilst it's impregnated, I'm going to place it inside this little plastic bag. Seal it up. It's a Ziploc bag, that's important, it's got to be airtight. And then I place it in the pocket of my jacket to be retrieved later, just before I go on my date. Just before I go on my date, I pull out my little pad, and now I apply it to the areas, because it's still going to be damp, There's no air got to it, it hasn't dried out. You apply it to the back of your neck, apply it to your pulse points, the heat areas, so that that fragrance is renewed and it's emitting that wonderful smell that you want to permeate to that person that you're meeting to make a great impression. Which, let's be honest, that's why we wear a fragrance. We wear nice fragrances to let people know that we are people of style and of good taste. So apply it, make it work for you. Use the cotton pad to rejuvenate that fragrance just before you have that special occasion. So drawing to a conclusion just about, one of my final tips, but it's very similar, is to actually keep that cotton handkerchief in your pocket, get yourself your fragrance, spray that fragrance onto your cotton handkerchief, place it back in your pocket. Then throughout the day, when you go to the lavatory, wash your hands, if you just sprinkle a little bit of water back on top of your handkerchief, it'll reactivate that fragrance. If you just wipe it across the back of your neck, on your sort of heat areas, your pulse points, and it'll just refresh that fragrance, and you get a lovely smell on your handkerchief. So those occasions that you may have to produce your handkerchief to a damsel in distress, or you need to blow your own nose, you'll be reminded of your own good taste because that wonderful fragrance comes back to visit you again. So good idea, keep it in your pocket, it's there when you need it. So a little bit of a tip to make your fragrances go that much longer. When you're at the very end of your bottle of Eau de Toilette or Eau de Cologne, and you've probably fallen out of love with it. We've all got those fragrances at the back of the drawer that we've thought, you know, I really liked it at the time. It was a very powerful fragrance, but I'm no longer in love with it. What can you do with that? Well, most perfumes, most colognes are a combination of different ingredients which create that signature fragrance that we all fall in love with. So if you've got a couple of old fragrances that you don't like anymore, why don't you try layering them up? Spray it on your wrist, try spraying a squirt of one of the other ones you don't like on it, and see what happens. You might find that you've discovered a custom fragrance that you can use going forward, when in fact all you've done is use 2 old bottles of fragrance that were just wasting away, not going to be used. So instead of not using them, you've now got a custom fragrance. And if somebody says to you when you're out, "Good Lord, what a wonderful smell you have on you tonight. What's that?" You can say, in good faith, "Well, it's a custom fragrance I've mixed myself at home. I'm glad you like it." Wow, now that does make you sound like a stylish chap, does it not? And my final bonus tip, even though it's not really a tip, it's a cheat. If you're going out for the evening, going to the cinema, meeting friends in the city centre, depends where you live, if there's a department store that's still open, why not pop in and just avail yourself of their services of a tester squirt of the various fragrances that they have on display for people to pick and choose from. Try something you haven't used before, see if it's something you want to invest in. But you know, it's a cheat, it's not really a tip, but I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. Well folks, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation we've had today about making your fragrances go longer and ultimately saving you money. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, and while you're there, click that subscribe box as well. That way you won't miss any future content from the Chap's Guide, which is all about men's grooming, men's style, and any tips that can help you on your individual journey to chap nirvana. Please take care of yourselves, stay stylish, and I'll see you very soon.